stood at the window of my house, looking out through the shutters, watching the mindless crowd stroll by. I spotted a young man without any sense, arriving at the corner of the street where she lived, then turning up the path to her house. It was dusk, the evening coming on, the darkness thickening into light. Just then, a woman met him. She'd been lying in wait for him, dressed to seduce him. Bold, brash she was, restless and roaming, never at home, walking the streets, loitering in the mall, hanging out at every corner in town. She threw her arms around him and kissed him boldly, took his arm and said, "I've got everything ready for a big night. Today I've paid my dues, so now I've come to find you, hoping to catch sight of your face. And here you are. I've spread fresh, clean sheets on my bed, fun, colourful sheets. My room is full of candles and sweet fragrances. Come, let's make love all night, spend the night in ecstatic love-making. My parents aren't home, they're away on business, and they won't be back for a month." Soon she has him eating out of the palm of her hand, bewitched by her honeyed speech. Before you know it, he's trotting behind her like a calf led to the butcher shop, like a stag lured into ambush, and then shot with an arrow, like a bird flying into a net, not knowing that its flying life is over. So friends, listen to me. Take these words of mine most seriously. Don't fool around with a woman like that. Don't even stroll through her neighbourhood. Countless victims come under her spell. She's the death of many a poor man. She runs a halfway house to hell, fits you out with a shroud and a coffin. Temptation. It's something that's appealing, something that lures us in. It's something that entices you. It wants you to grab it. The desire or want to do something that we know is wrong, or something we shouldn't do, or unwise. And we hear sayings like, "I fell into temptation. I didn't mean to do it, but I was tempted." We hear this daily. It's something we're surrounded by every single day. We go to school and we're tempted. We go to work and we're tempted. We watch TV and we're tempted. We're on the internet and we're tempted. We go shopping and we're tempted. It surrounds us. Every part of our day, we see temptation. It's trying to lure us in. It's trying to grab us. We all have a different story. We face different challenges as individuals. I might be strong with one thing and you weak with another. But these aren't things we need to hide. But temptation can be something that we focus on. And in James 1:14-15 it says, "We are tempted by our own desires that drag us off and trap us. Our desires make us sin. And when sin has finished with us, it leaves us dead." And we see these stories of temptation right through Scripture and right through history. It's become a daily occurrence for us as people, and particularly as young people. As we grow and develop and change, physically, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, socially, we face all of these different temptations and all of these challenges as we go through life. I might be strong in one thing, you might be strong in a different area. But these things, these weaknesses aren't something that we should hide. Hiding these things is actually what the devil wants. He wants us to put these things deep inside and be ashamed of them.
Take a breather.
How good. Some have a skewed or twisted idea of what temptation actually is, and they say that if we've been tempted, we've already sinned, but it's only when we put our own will or our own desires before that of God's that it becomes a sin. And we see in Matthew 4, verse 1 to 11, that even Jesus was tempted. He was fasting for 40 days. He went off into the desert just after he'd been baptized, and the devil was tempting him. Obviously, you're fasting for 40 days. You're going to be hungry. So he tempted him with something that he needed, something that he wanted. He needed sustenance. He needed nutrition. It was something physical. But Christ threw it back into his face with Scripture. He tempted him with something spiritual, being God, his Father. But again, Christ threw it back into his face with Scripture. Then he tempted him with something that challenged his whole reason for being here on earth, and said, I will give you all of this, all of these things, these kingdoms, these riches, if all you do is bow to me. But Christ said no. So he threw these three different things back into his face and said, no, not my will, but God's. There are some that would also say that God tempts us. But there's a difference between God's tests and temptation. We see in Genesis 22 where God is testing Abraham, and he says, I want you to sacrifice your son. And Abraham's like, yep, sweet, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go through with it. It isn't a temptation from God. It's a test. It's a test of Abraham's faith. And we see also Christ testing those when he's feeding the 5,000. He says to Philip, how are we to buy all of this bread, this food to feed all of these people? He already knows the answer. He doesn't need the answer to this question, but he's asking Philip to test him. But God testing us isn't tempting us with sin. It's actually his way of encouraging us to rely on him, to have faith in him, to turn back to him. He's not doing it for his own amusement or own pleasure. He's doing it for our good. And in James 1:13 it says, don't blame God when you are tempted. God can't be tempted by evil, and he doesn't use evil to tempt others. Now this is actually a command. It is saying, don't blame God when you are tempted. He isn't the one giving you this. He may test you. He may test you for your own strength and to test your faith. But these temptations for sin and things of the world are coming from the devil or your own love for the things of the world. So on one side of the coin we have this temptation for the things of the world that are coming from either Satan or our own desire and love of these things. And on the other we've got the tests that come from God, which are testing our faith and our love and our commitment to him. And we see these two things. One is a nice, easy, wide path that tapers off into a narrow, hard destruction. And on the other side, we've got these tests which might seem so tough and challenging on the way through, and we're wondering why, God, why are you doing this to me? It's this rough path, it's rocky, it's dirt. We're getting messy, we're getting scraped up on the way through, but we come out. And on the other side of this path, we've got this lush, big, green billabong where we are. That's a terrible word. What's that word? It's oasis, I was thinking of. Not billabong, oasis. But we come out of this narrow, tight path, and we're in this lush, beautiful oasis where God is saying, this was a test. This wasn't me tempting you to do something wrong. It was me showing you that you can do this. This is me loving you. This is me being a father, correcting you and challenging you, helping you grow, helping you stretch, pushing you.